This is the local news on Gold FM.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe expects the International Monetary Fund's Executive Board to approve both the 5th and 6th reviews of the Extended Fund Facility to Sri Lanka by May. He said this during an interview with Bloomberg on the sidelines of the Asia in 2050 conference.
Now the fifth review was supposed to be completed in December, but we had this climate change cyclone with the impact, had an impact in the economy. As a result, this was postponed. And what we are hoping now is to negotiation the IMF to complete and combine fifth review and sixth review together, and most probably somewhere in May, we should be able to go to the executive board of the IMF and get the approval for both together, where we will catch up the time and get the disbursement and also move forward with this very important Extended Fund Facility with the IMF as a key pillar of the economic stability, macroeconomic stability, and also growth.
When quizzed on the possibility of certain targets set for Sri Lanka under the programme to be revised by taking the Middle East tensions into account, this is what he had to say.
I'm sure because basically there's enough flexibility for us to negotiate for the current circumstances and the outlook. So what we think now, compared to last year December outlook we had seen, is different. Firstly, domestic impact on the cyclone, and secondly, the global impact on the external demand. With those two, obviously, we negotiate and discuss with the IMF how best we can accurately predict the outlook, and as a result, we need to revise some of the targets. And we are in the process of that negotiation. At the end of this month, we are expecting submission will be in Sri Lanka to complete those reviews together, and with that flexibility, we'll be able to continue the program with some flexibility for us to be able to achieve those targets.
A barrel of crude is above $100 for the first time since the Russian-Ukraine war began in 2022. However, the central bank governor expressed confidence in managing these external shocks.
From our point of view, I think oil obviously as an importing country, there's a significant impact to high oil prices, to inflation as well as domestic payment. But from the inflation point of view, we are right now at a good position where current inflation in the last month was 1.6% compared to 5% the target that central bank has to deliver. There's a significant good space for us to be able to absorb that kind of price shock into domestic inflation. That's where we are in a much better position. I don't have a kind of threshold saying that this is the level, but we are well prepared compared to where we were in the past. For example, in crisis we had 70% inflation. If that came in that kind of situation, we are in a difficult situation. But compared to 5% inflation, 1.6 good space for us to absorb that shock, but still it will have an adverse implication. A small economy like us relying on imported oil, but I think we can manage that because we have built buffers.
Sri Lankan Airlines resumes daily flight operations to Riyadh tonight and Dubai tomorrow as it continues to track regional security developments. The national carrier scheduled flight UL265 to depart for Riyadh this evening, with the return flight UL266 departing later this evening. Services to Dubai commence tomorrow with the flight UL231 at 12:40 p.m, followed by UL232 returning to Colombo at 5 p.m. Passengers can access updated flight information through the airline's official website or by contacting their dedicated 1979 hotline. The Ceylon Electricity Board operations were ceased with the implementation of the Sri Lanka Electricity Act. Under a new restructuring plan effective today, the board splits into 6 independent companies, including Lanka Electricity Generation Lanka Private Limited, National Transmission Network Service Provider Private Limited, and National System Operator Private Limited, or NSO. Speaking to the media, Minister of Energy Kumara Jayakodi had this to say on the restructuring.
විදුලි බල ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨයේ මෑතකදී ගත් විශාලතම පරිවර්තනයේ සම්පූර්ණ කරන මොහොතක් කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා මේ මොහොතේ. ඒ කියන්නේ ලංකා විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලයේ ප්‍රතිවගත කරන වැඩපිළිවෙල සම්පූර්ණ කරනවා අද දිනේට. කලින් රජයේ ලංකා විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලයේ කොටස් 12කට කඩලා විකුණලා ඒ වගේම සේවකයෝ 12000ක් ගෙදර යවන්න අනුමැතිය අවශ්‍ය සැලසුම් ඔක්කොම සකස් කරලා තිබුණේ. අපි මේ ව්‍යාපෘතිය සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම දැන් ආපහු හරවලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වෙනුවට 100%ක්ම රජයට අයිති සමාගම් පිහිටවලා අනෙක් අතට අපේ රටේ විදුලි බල ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨයට වත්මන් හා අනාගත අභියෝග ජයග්‍රහණ ගන්න අත්‍යවශ්‍ය ව්‍යුහාත්මක වෙනස්කම් කරමින් නමුත් 100%ක්ම රජයේ අයිතිය තහවුරු කරමින් කටයුතු කළ බව අපි බොහොම නිහතමානීව කියන්න කැමතියි. ඒ වගේම මේ වැඩපිළිවෙලදී වැඩ කරන ජනතාවගේ රජයක් හැටියට අපි ඉතා සැලකිල්ලෙන් කටයුතු කළ බවත් තව කාරණාවක්. ලංකාව ඉදිරි බල මණ්ඩලයේ සේවකයෙක් හැටියට ඔබ ඕනෑ කෙනෙක් භුක්ති විඳි වරප්‍රසාදයන් අයිතිවාසිකම් අබමල් රේණුවක ප්‍රමාණයකින් අඩුවක් නැතුව ඔබට සම්බන්ධ වෙන අලුත් ආයතන වලදීත් ලැබෙන බව අපි වග කියනවා.
25 electricity trade unions launched a strike today to protest what they called the failure to issue formal appointment letters to employees under the newly implemented restructure of the CEB. Workers assigned to new companies established by the reform process claim authorities remain silent on grievances regarding job security and employee rights. Union leaders report that the industrial action serves as a direct response to the lack of clarity surrounding general working conditions within the reorganised state utility. Even though the Ceylon Electricity Board operations were ceased today, a problem remains in the absence of power purchase agreements. This concern was raised by energy expert Dr. Vidura Ralapanava.
NSO and all the power plants require power purchase agreements. Now, all the private power companies have power purchase agreements with CEB, which are transferred to NSO, but each CEB entity, like the Noracholi coal plant, hydro plants, Salnitisa power plant, were expected to have power purchase agreements with the NSO so that NSO can pay them the correct amounts of money as per the agreement. Now, these PPAs are yet to be signed. Then, NSO also has to pay the transmission company for their transmission services. So there has to be an agreement between the NSO and the transmission company, which is also not in place. Now the electricity sector, the entities that collect money from us as consumers are the distribution companies, LECO and the 4 distribution divisions of CB. Now they need to have an agreement with the NSO because they buy electricity from the NSO, buys generation electricity from the generators and sells it to the distribution company. So there has to be our sales agreements between distribution companies and NSO. These are also not in place. Only entity that has agreement is LECO with the CEB, which now is translated to NSO. Similar to the agreement in NSO, all the distribution companies also has to have agreements. Unfortunately, even this basic thing has not been put in place. So when I asked how they are going to manage it, I was told that they are going to do temporary cash flow agreements, which is a really poor show because the drafts of these power purchase agreements have been already done by external consultants. I believe it was PwC way back in 2024 fall when the current government came into power. But they have not been able to finalize it and put them in place, even though 1.5 years have gone. My worry is that we haven't done sufficient due diligence. What we are talking about is restructuring a $2 billion entity. It's almost $2 billion. And we have such a big company being restructured without having proper legal frameworks put in place is scary, simply to put.
Now for some news in brief.
The Colombo Chief Magistrate ordered former parliamentarian Sajjan Vas Gunawardena to be remanded until the 24th of this month over allegations of illegal acquisition of assets exceeding 243 million rupees. A foreigner who was walking along the rail tracks was killed after a collision with a train in Pinvatta, Panadura, while 3 others, including a small child, were injured in the incident. The Department of Meteorology says that the temperature felt on the human body is likely to increase up to caution level at some places in western Sabragamua and northwestern provinces and in the Monaragala district.
The business news on Gold FM.
The all-share price index of the Colombo Stock Exchange declined by 797.77 points to close at 21,904.14. The S&P SL20 index also declined 231.89 to close at 6,128.86. Total market turnover was 5.8 billion rupees.
International news on Gold FM.
Tensions in the Middle East reached a critical peak today following the appointment of Mojtaba Khamenei as Iran's new supreme leader. The selection by the Assembly of Experts follows the death of his father, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, in a joint US-Israeli airstrike last month. Russian President Vladimir Putin immediately offered his congratulations, pledging unwavering support for the new leadership and describing Russia as a reliable partner to Tehran. In contrast, US President Donald Trump issued a stern warning, stating that any new Iranian leader lacks longevity without Washington's approval. On the battlefront, Israel launched fresh overnight attacks targeting military infrastructure in Tehran and Hezbollah positions in Beirut. Simultaneously, international human rights groups issued a report accusing the Israeli military of using white phosphorus munitions in southern Lebanon. These reports claim the incendiary rounds fell over residential areas in the town of Yomor, causing civilian injuries and property damage. Israel maintains that its military operations strictly follow international law while targeting militant groups. The conflict expanded further as Iran launched a wave of retaliatory drone and missile attacks against Gulf nations. Bahrain's state oil company declared force majeure after a refinery on Sitra Island caught fire during an Iranian strike. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates also reported intercepting multiple projectiles aimed at energy facilities and residential zones. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghaei issued a stern rebuff to diplomatic efforts during a lengthy news briefing today. He reaffirmed the nation's commitment to self-defense, asserting that Iran remains prepared to protect its sovereignty against external threats. Addressing regional tensions, the spokesperson denied any offensive actions against Turkey, Cyprus or Azerbaijan within the past week, suggesting instead that certain incidents appeared staged. However, today, Turkey's defense ministry says a ballistic missile fired from Tehran was neutralized by NATO defenses deployed in the eastern Mediterranean. It said some debris from the missile landed in south-central Turkey, but that it caused no casualties.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
Paddington the Musical equalled the all-time record at the What's on Stage Awards, securing 9 trophies including Best New Musical. The production matches historical hauls by Miss Saigon and Harry Potter after their successful West End debut at the Savoy Theatre.
Sports news on Gold FM.
India became the first nation to successfully defend the T20 World Cup title following a dominant 96-run victory over New Zealand in Ahmedabad. A record-breaking crowd of 86,000 witnessed the hosts post an imposing total of 255 for the loss of 5 wickets at the Narendra Modi Stadium. Opener Sanju Samson led the charge with a brilliant 89 runs from 46 deliveries, marking the highest individual score in a tournament final. The Indian bowling attack dismantled the New Zealand chase, dismissing the visitors for 159 in 19 overs. The victory marks India's 3rd trophy in the format, adding to their previous successes in 2004, in 2007 and 2024. India also stands as the first team to claim the silverware on home soil. That's it for now. This is Dulia de Silva for Gold FM. Thank you.